All right, everybody. It's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today on the show is Avery Carl. This woman is amazing. She is an agent in 3 markets. She has expanded her business to 3 markets, which are the Smoky Mountains, Destin, or in the Florida Panhandle, and she is in Gulf Shores in Alabama. Avery, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, last year you did over 140 million.
Yes.
The year before that you've gone from 56 million to 143 million.
Yes.
56 million in your market is already over the top. And now you've more than doubled that in the last year.
Almost tripled it.
Yeah, thank you. Let's just say
Almost.
you tripled it. Right. So, I mean, you really did. So you were what, like 15 grand off a tripling it, or 15 million, 10 million?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was close.
Anyway, give us a little bit about your story, how you got in the business, and let's talk about how you everybody's dying to hear how you did it. Give us a little bit about how you did it, and then let's make sure we get your story and everything else.
Okay, sure. So I work only with investor clients and only short-term rental investor clients. And I got into that kind of by accident. I was in the music business before that. I was a marketing manager in Nashville. And we moved to Nashville from New York City in 2013. I didn't have my license at the time. The agent that we were working with was really trying to get us to buy in this hip, like super fast appreciating area of Nashville. And coming from Brooklyn, we just did not want any more neighbors. We were over neighbors. So we bought something out in the country, but we had a little bit of money left over. And we thought, well, maybe we'll just buy a rental property. And we didn't even know it was called real estate investing at the time. We were like, oh, we'll just buy this rental property and see how it goes. And luckily it went really well. We still have that one.
You didn't have a license yet?
No. I had an agent at the time.
One more time. What year was this?
2013.
2013, you did not have a license yet. Not many years later, you're at 140. I mean, this girl's like, are she real? But keep going. So yeah. You bought a short-term rental property in Nashville.
That one was a long-term rental property. And it did great. And so we thought, okay, we actually want some more of these. We want to make a business out of this. So then we started educating ourselves and reading investment books and listening to investment podcasts. And we had one down payment worth of like a single family home size down payment left. And we thought, okay, what can we buy with this that will make us the most amount of money so that we can buy more of these things faster? So we landed on short-term rentals. We didn't want to do it in Nashville because the regulations around Airbnbs are really, really bad and change all the time. And it was just a mess. So we thought, well, where can we go and buy something that it's just normal to rent a property overnight, like Destin or the Smoky Mountains? So we went to the Smokies a few hours east of Nashville and Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, bought a cabin there. We really didn't have any idea what we were doing, but we knew that if we put a few systems together, we could totally manage it on our own from Nashville remotely. And we did. And that one did so well that we scaled it up to 5 cabins in the Smokies within about a year and a half. And during that time, I decided to get my license, because my husband is a really terrible client and I felt horrible for all the agents that we worked with. So I got my license to do our deals. But then past that, there were no agents in the market that I was buying in that could really answer any questions about the return on investment, the occupancy rate, and just generally running an investment business. So I kind of became that agent by default. It just kind of started with some of my friends saying, oh, you have a cabin in the Smokies. That makes how much? Teach me how to do it. And then that scaled into clients, like random clients that I had never heard of. I never expected to, be a real estate agent. I just kind of expected to do it on the side for my friends. And so ended up scaling those 5 properties into, we have 32 units now. They're not all short terms.
5 properties. So 2013, this kind of started almost by accident. And then you went from 1 property to 5 properties in that first year?
Well, there was a little space in between the first and the second investment. So the second investment happened in 2016. So 2016 scaled into 5 properties by mid 2017. Yeah.
And then so in that time, you're still just kind of like learning and helping friends out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you go, wait a minute, like the world, supply and demand, there's no supply and there's a strong demand for what I've got.
Mm-hmm.
How did that transition?
So I got licensed at the beginning of 2017. I did about 10 million that year. And then 2018, I did 35. And it was I was really trying to fight the being the short-term rental agent. I just wanted to, I was kind of chasing commissions still. Like I wanted to be the agent that does everything. And it wasn't until I took a client that was a friend of mine's parents as a favor, and they ran me around and made me drive all over 3 hours here, 3 hours over there. I was spending like 12-hour Saturdays with these people looking at $50,000 mobile homes. And I looked with the mom for a long time. And then the dad showed up and on the fifth day and asked me if I could find where the serial number, it's called something else. I don't know what it is though. Still, where's the serial number on this mobile home? And I was like, couldn't tell you. And they fired me. Oh, and then I thought to myself, I was like, why did I take this mobile home? Why did I do this? I sold $35 million worth of short-term rentals. I'm just going to stick to that. That is clearly where my money is coming from. So I'm not going to try to do all these other things. I'm the short-term rental agent now. And I just scaled it in the Smokies. And then I thought, well, how can I repeat this? And so Destin is another place that I grew up going that I knew the regulations would be good because these are true vacation rental markets. So people have been renting these things just like Airbnbs since well before there was Airbnb. So long story short, I've got offices now in the Smokies, Destin, and Gulf Shores, Alabama. I have about 12 agents who work for me and with me in those markets. And we work only with short-term rental clients. And what we do also is we teach them how to manage those properties on the back end so that they don't have to go hire a property manager. Property managers in this space charge anywhere from 25 to 40% of your gross income, which can be, your gross income can be upwards of $100,000.
It can be in excess of what you might have you can end up at a loss because of it.
Exactly. So we teach our clients how to manage themselves, teach them how to set up their Airbnb and VRBO listings, all the automation tools and the tips and the tricks so that they can manage from wherever they live and be able to squeeze every last dollar out of that investment and go scale their properties into, more investments for their portfolio.
Wow. So you got into business, you moved to Nashville, decided to go to the Smoky Mountains because you're buying a home, but it can be an investment. That's back in 2013. Things unfold. You're learning about short-term rentals. 2016, you go from 1 to 5 properties. 2016, 2017, you're like, okay, you basically did $35 million of real estate being nice to friends. And then you thought, okay, but the commissions aren't really here. I'm going to be an agent. And then you did that and you end up showing mobile homes for 50 grand and don't know where a serial number is. Hours and hours with somebody. We can all relate to that in this. But this is like the show to talk everybody out of being a realtor. And the traditional, but it really is. This is a great message. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm already good at what I'm good at. What am I doing? Like, let me go back. The narrower I go, the more abundance there appears to be. So, harness that. It's amazing how the deeper and more focused you get, the bigger the opportunities get, which is basically what you're sharing with us right now.
Exactly.
In your business, you went from not only understanding your market, not only really doing high volume because you were so specialized with such a strong demand and a low supply of your knowledge, you delivered on that. Now you're at a level where you say, okay, I'm going to not just give these people, the service, I'm going to teach them about it. And that's become a part of your business platform as well. You have webinar calls they can sign up for online. You got like a Calendly link. They go in there, they pick the day, they join in. And that's just part of being a client, or is that a monthly fee, or how does that work?
That is just a value add for being a client.
It's amazing. And so brilliant. I don't know another agent, maybe I do, but they haven't told me that actually says, hey, you can join me on a webinar call. And then you've got investors sharing ideas, sharing issues, learning from one another just because of your clients. Now, I asked you this question just because it would occur to me if I were listening. when your clients start networking and they're investors, are you ever worried that they're going to go do deals, or that doesn't matter because of how your business model is and it just really creates more authenticity? How does that look?
So that's definitely a concern. So we have a Facebook group where they can all kind of answer each other's questions. And I kind of make it clear, like, hey guys, the reason that we don't charge extra for all this extra stuff is because the expectation and the hope is that when you go to buy another one because you're so successful, that you'll remember who taught you how to do this and taught you how to be successful at this, and you will come use this again. Now, we all know that sometimes clients are jerks and that doesn't always work like that. But, of the 300 people we worked with last year, I mean, they think that I don't know about it. I always know. Nothing happens in Sevier County, Tennessee that I don't know about. Yeah.
That's what they don't know. We do always know.
Yeah. But I would say of the 300 that we've done, and that's just an arbitrary number, but ish, in the past year and a half, I would say maybe 10 of them have done something like that. So that's a pretty good margin. So, you're always going to have the clients that do something like that and you can't stop it. And it used to really, really upset me. And it still does. I'm kind of like, oh, I just taught you how to bring a whole extra income stream into your family. You're going to do me like that? But okay. But it is what it is. It's just the business, I guess.
Well, you create this community, a culture, people want to keep coming back for more. And once you do that, it's hard to come back and get more.
Right.
And what I'm hearing is, we talk about this on the show a lot, but it's really resonating here, is what can you do for your client that nobody else can? It's clear for you. Mm-hmm. There's so many people who say, yeah, you talk about specializing, but I mean, I'm new and I've just got to take whatever I can get. But you did the complete opposite. You did what the wise people say to do. And even when you tried to go against it, it was a drastic difference.
Yeah.
And what the results were. All right. So let's repeat one more time for everybody. I want to repeat for 10 million, your first year, which is already outstanding. Then you did 35 million. And then you up to 56 million. And now you're at 145 million.
Yeah.
Over the span of the last, basically 4 years you've been in business.
Mm-hmm.
That is unbelievable. So now you've got a team of 12 agents is that collectively over your various markets, 12 agents?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you attribute to your level of success? What is it that you have that other people don't have that gave you, I mean, sounds like some grit there to me, but I don't know. Tell me what do you say it is?
Probably a little bit of that. And then just, my clients saw what I was doing with my investments and trusted the system. And then also, have you read that book? There's this book called The Go Giver about, the more you give, the better off you are personally. So, we just have always that was always the business model. Like even before I even realized it was a business model, my friend said, oh, I want to buy one of these. Can you help me get it going? Well, yeah. And then when I was scraping for clients, I would somehow get these clients that were 3 hours away from me, by the way. The first 2.5 years of my career, I was doing most of my business in Sevier County, Tennessee, which was 3 hours from Nashville. I was driving there twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week to show properties. I just worked my tail off, really, is all there is to it. And I still do. Even though I have a lot of agents who work for me now, I spend a lot of time generating leads for them so that they're not having to, I'm not just handing them these cold Zillow leads that they have to call and like hate their lives doing cold calls. I get these leads warmed up. They're ready to go. I hand them to them. And, I work really hard on my systems and making sure that my team is super happy so that my team stays running the way that it should be.
So tell us a little bit about how are you able to have the level of business you have, run a team, and generate warm leads for your clients too? So your clients, your agents.
Yeah. So with real estate investing, it's a really small community. It seems like it's not, but it is. So there's lots of real estate investor meetups in different areas there's really one in every city. So I started out before I was technically a real estate investor, I would just go talk to people, and I only had one little investment, but I'd listen to, okay, this guy is buying mobile home parks. That's super interesting. And then they say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing short-term rentals. And that was always something that was just recently kind of accepted as mainstream real estate investing. Even just 3 or 4 years ago, people were like, oh, really? How's that working? It was kind of intriguing. So I just kind of generated some buzz that way. And then now, I'm doing a lot more of like actual marketing and outreach and doing webinars with people to kind of explain to them how you manage short-term rentals. And it's really more of now it's like I'm marketing to people who are looking for an extra income stream for their family, who a lot of people that want to quit their jobs, because you can quit your job on just like 3 or 4 short-term rental investments. So it's a lot of that. And I just do a lot of talking to people up front rather than handing a phone number to my team and saying, hey, call this number.
That's awesome. So basically the leads come in because it's such a specialized process. You're able to come in, you're bringing value that nobody else can bring. So once they see that value, you can't get it anywhere. They're ready to go, and you've got the services in place to handle a high volume of deals and clients. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about, well, there are 2 things. We're going to talk about team structure because that's always a question from everybody. But before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about when you hand these leads off, at what point is it time to hand them off? At what point does the other agent come in? At what point do you hand it off? And how does that really look? How do you make sure that works? Because that I think is a huge challenge for all of us.
So when the client is ready to get pre-approved and start making offers, I hand that off. And I frame it as more of because it does feel weird, and it felt really weird going from a solo agent to having a client. To having customers. Now you're making me say clients. To having a customer, agent. God.
Agent.
Okay, handing off the clients to the agents. So it felt really weird at first because I felt like I was making them feel passed off. And I probably was with my approach. Like, okay, you talked to me and I've gotten you all excited about doing this. And then now I'm going to hand you off to somebody else. So I really frame it as, this is my partner. We are partners and I'm here for the higher level questions. She's going to be your boots on the ground, or he's going to be, and they're going to be the ones that like take you to look at properties. They're going to be the ones to ask the listing agents questions and take videos and do things like that. Whereas I'll be the one that you ask, hey, what do you think about this from an investment standpoint? So that has really worked well. There's always some people that are like, I don't want to work with them. I want to work with you.
The way you just said that is a real value add. The way I heard that, like, well, wait, so this is like a real value add. You've got somebody, because you've got such a high level of information. You've got somebody on the ground who can do the legwork, ask the questions, really be engaged, and you've got that high level of information. Because most people with that kind of information aren't going to go traipsing around 1,000 houses, or at least that's the picture that is drawn. It's great. But yeah, so the transition, do you have, like, again, when it's time for pre-approval, you make the introduction, you say, this is your, so when they're ready to go look at houses. Mm-hmm. So how many phone calls do you have or engagements do you have before you know, like, these guys are in? Or how, is it that digital? Is that in person? Not in person on the phone? Is it a Zoom call?
So I get it done in one phone call or one Zoom call now. I explain to them the market, what they can expect in their price range, what they can expect to make on a property that's in their price range, how the market is. Like right now, I focus a lot on, if you're not comfortable offering over asking price immediately, then we need to put you in another market, because the Smoky Mountains are super hot right now. And it's all investors. So if the numbers, if the asking price is 500,000, but the investment numbers still work up to 600, somebody's going to go in there and offer 600 just to beat everybody out, because it's just so hot. So I spend a lot of time, letting them know what they can expect when they're making offers. I get it all done. I kind of have gotten my little script nailed down of the high points that I hit. And then at the end of it, I say, okay, after this, I'm going to send you an email with a little bit more information. I'm going to send you a few lender recommendations who also own their own short-term rentals. So they're really great resources. You should call them and go ahead and get pre-qualified, because we can't send any offers without that. And I'm also going to introduce you to your boots on the ground agent, who's going to take you around and look at properties and really dig in there with you. And then I'm around if you have any investment questions. And I rarely get pushback framing it that way. Every now and then it happens, but not often.
Was this intentional? Was this intentional when you said your boots on the ground agent?
Yes.
Most agents say, I'm going to send you my buyer's agent. And I'm like, well, I don't want your buyer's agent. You're my agent. So I want my agent.
Yeah. I cut
your boots on the ground. I just gave you somebody here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
I think it does. I think the little phrases like that make a huge difference. Like when I say my partner, one of my agents, his name is Jennifer. I'm going to introduce you to my partner, Jennifer. She's going to be your agent, rather than I'm going to introduce you to my agent, Jennifer. It just sounds better.
Everything. Because instead of it being about you, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is about them. You talked about you hit high points on that initial call to win that business. What are those? How many high points are there?
It depends. I kind of let the client drive in terms of questions that they're going to ask, but they all ask roughly the same questions, which is how much is this going to make? Is it going to come furnished? What happens in a worst case scenario, like coronavirus? What else? What happens in a downturn? Is the market saturated? They all pretty much, you would probably ask the same questions if you were thinking about buying one. There's just kind of certain questions, like a set of 10 questions that everybody's mind goes to when they're thinking about buying a short-term rental property.
So you see them coming.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever do any pre-marketing, like a video, like videos that say, when you're ready to buy, this is what you need to know? And it's kind of like you send it out. Look, there are a lot of agents who will do that, where they go, oh, well, here's step 1, here's step 2. You can go back and reference this. Or do you have anything in writing you send them, or is it all phone call and engagement?
I have been meaning to do a video just that for a long time, but I keep getting sidetracked. So I just try to explain it to them on the call and on the first call, but I really do need a video. I think that really would help. Or I've started a PDF, like a cute infographic of the process, but just haven't made it through. But I think that really would help if they could refer back to it.
I'm very sure by that. You're such a badass. I'm just like, God, this girl has it together.
I don't.
Right. But it's like, I've done a few of those, and then but the thing is, and you're probably constantly changing, constantly improving. So that's going to constantly change, improve, which presents a challenge, because you want to give everybody your best.
Yep.
So structure on the transferring the buyer, and then we're going to talk about the structure of your team. When you bring in these clients, you basically have one meeting, you win the deal, you have a place for them to go sign up for webinars, and they do have direct access for you for high-level questions. Mm-hmm. If they call you and they want to know something they really should have called their buyer's agent or your transaction coordinator for, how do you handle that call?
Normally, if it's something that's not urgent, I'll say, I'm not in front of my computer, but Amity has the answer to that, or Jennifer knows.
Perfect.
And yeah, I just try to make it seem like, I'm not actually in a place where I can look, but ask them. And then they kind of get it.
Yeah. So it's a way of it's because anytime somebody says, that's not my job, that is never well received by a client.
No.
No. Or I don't know. No. Solutions is what they want to hear. Team structure. So it's just great insight, because you've accomplished something very few people have at a level everybody aspires to, but they just don't quite get there. I mean, this is really, thank you to Chris Reed for the introduction, because this is a really great interview. I mean, this is really great insight. And I think it's rare and hard to find. Next question is your team structure. Exactly how are you structured from 12 agents? What's the infrastructure? What's the support? What does it look like? Draw us a picture.
So for me, this is something that is a constant struggle and is constantly changing, because a lot of the tech systems like CRMs and IDX feeds are not made for teams who operate in multiple states. Like, they cannot handle it. They freak out. I've been through 3 or 4 CRM IDX configurations in the past year, just because nobody can do what I need them to do. So that part's a little messy. But in terms of structure, so I've got my agents in the Smokies. I've got one in Destin, here where I am, and then I have one in Gulf Shores, which is just about 2 hours away. We have 2 transaction. Well, no, we have 3. We had 1 transaction coordinator handling Tennessee, 1 handling Florida. Now we've got 2 in Tennessee, and one of those does Gulf Shores, Alabama also. we probably need about one more. I have 2 virtual assistants, and they just kind of help me with the admin tasks like scheduling or like making that little PDF that I was just mentioning. She works on that. She helps me make sure I keep all the clients that I've talked to straight, and email and contact information, and what they're looking for. Yeah, kind of. It really, I mean, she even orders my groceries. Like, she does everything for me.
That's awesome. So when you say transaction coordinators, because everybody has a little bit of everybody's transaction coordinator seems to mean a little bit of for you. What is that closing or closings? And again, I didn't ask you, but listings, because you guys really have a heavy focus on investors, but those investors eventually might sell. Do you have any focus on the listing component?
Yes. So I have freed myself up completely of buyers as of 2021. I just finally cut the cord with doing transactions myself in September, because I had a baby at the end of September. So I was like, okay, it's got to stop. Thank you. Second one. So I focus mostly on getting the listing. So investors really value pre-market or off-market deals. And so I make sure that I have a platform, because there's, the clear cooperation laws are all wacky now, and you can't do it the way you used to. But I make sure that they have my buyer clients have the first shot at any listings that we get. And I also partner with a developer who builds cabins in the Smokies, fully furnished, ready for short-term rental. We don't list them to the public. They're only available if you are a short-term shop client, and they're pretty cool. I just got one.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is a really big value for investors. So I try to bring in the listings to make it easier make it a value add for everybody. So with that being said, I've really ramped up the volume with my developer clients that are building the short-term rental properties. So that's kind of been my focus lately. But I handle the listings for the most part right now. If I have it structured with my buyer agents that if one of the buyers that they have been representing in the past goes to list, that's their listing. And, but I focus on bringing in the outside ones usually.
So your buyer agents, they represent a buyer and they go to list, that buyer agent gets the listing.
Yes.
Great. That's interesting, because that was kind of, that was originally everybody thought that wasn't the way to do it. And it just seems to be, everybody seems to be evolving to that. And it sounds like it works. And if for me it does, it sounds like it does for you too.
And yeah.
So back to team structure. So transaction coordinators, what exactly do they do? What is their role?
So for us, they do more than just the paperwork. They do there's a lot of hand-holding involved just with investing in general, especially when people are new to it. So they're really more like almost like a second agent who, just does kind of the lower level tasks. So they're really contract to close. They're pretty involved.
So they're administrative, but they also answer questions, or
they answer some questions. If it's anything investment related, it always comes to me, because there's just so many things that if you say the wrong, like you can't say, oh, that will gross 100,000, because if they don't gross that, if they get in there and mess up, then
exactly.
So, you have to give them a range. So anything like that comes to me, but anything process related at all, the transaction coordinators handle.
So in their inspections and whatnot, the buyer agent attends those. And really,
sometimes it's not as customary in some of these markets as it is in other markets.
There.
Yeah.
So really the buyer agent shows the homes, makes the offer, negotiates the deal. The transaction coordinator, once it goes under contract, that's where they take over and make sure things are scheduled, make sure the ducks are in a row, make sure the paperwork gets signed, make sure it's submitted, make sure the closing schedule.
Pretty much.
On the listing end, is that where your virtual assistant comes in and helps out with that?
Yes. So she helps with listing inputs and just a lot of the processes that go into marketing to get listings. And I have my transaction coordinator. When I list a property, I have her number on there in addition to mine. So anybody who needs access information or to schedule something, that goes through her also.
And that's your virtual.
That is my TC. Yeah.
That's your transaction coordinator. So you have your own transaction coordinator?
Yeah. So we
Okay.
have, the way we do it is we have one transaction coordinator for like the top 3 volume people, and then another one for the other 10 to 12.
Okay. And then you have one of your own, or are you one of the top 3 people?
I'm one of the top 3. So now I'm kind of out of transaction, so I don't really have to use one anymore.
But when you sell your listings,
Except it's a list. Yeah. Well, I guess with when listings. I'm
sorry.
still starting thinking about buyers.
So, so the virtual person does the scheduling of showings or scheduling of your appointments, because you've got webinars, you've got phone calls. So she's
Right.
kind of like an assistant to you.
Yeah.
And then you've got transaction coordinators handling everything from contract to close.
Right.
And when and as far as the webinars, are you scheduling those, or does she kind of schedule those out and update the Calendly? How does that work?
So those are weekly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So those are just set in the Calendly, and people just go in and sign up.
Okay. But you're the one that figures out when you're going to be available, or is that you just know? Do you just got that set and rolling all the time, and it's just consistent every week, same time?
Yep. That is a standing meeting every week. Either it's strategically while my daughter's at school, or during that time when she is home, if she happens to be home like she is today. So that's my can't miss meetings every week.
So we're going to finalize, like, draw the big picture of you and your team, because that goes into your success, and what everybody wants to know is how's everybody structuring a team and how are they making it work.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 12 or 15 agents total?
12
agents total. 3 of you, because the other question I was going to ask you is transaction coordinators. You divvy up the transaction coordinators by agent.
Mm-hmm.
You have a transaction coordinator with the top 3 agents. Now, but you also have them per market. Does one agent work in multiple markets, or does one agent work in one market?
I have, most of my agents are in the Smokies. I have one in the Panhandle and one in Gulf Shores. So we have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Finish what you were saying, because you're probably going to answer my question.
Okay, sure. So it's kind of a weird structure. There's no real structure to it. So we have a Florida transaction coordinator. We have 2 transaction coordinators for the Tennessee team, but since the Gulf Shores, Alabama market is a newer one for us and it's not as high volume yet, our senior transaction coordinator in Tennessee also does the one Alabama agent.
Wow. I have a feeling that's about to grow really fast when you did 140 million you tripled your business in the last year. Anything else? How did you figure it out? Anything else we should know about growing and structuring your team before we hit on the final 3 questions?
It took me a long time to figure out. I mean, the first agent I ever hired tried to screw me over so hard, and it took me a long time to get back on the trust horse and hire more agents. I really tried to do all this volume by myself that I could not do, and my service to my clients was suffering because of that.
56 million in 1 year, everybody. 56 million in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. That was
That's
before
insane.
I expanded. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, but keep going. I just want everybody to know get some context to what you're saying here.
Yes. Well, I would, especially for newer agents, or not necessarily newer agents, but people who are new to wanting to start a team, get your system set up early. I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants and just did all this volume. And I thought, oh, well, when I get to this amount, then I'll need systems. But that was not the case. And then I got so busy that I never had time to go back and get the system set up. So even if you think you're not busy enough to need a CRM, or, all of your tech systems in place, or just processes for your day, you do, because you're going to be too busy before you realize it, to even get those set up.
Great advice. CRM, you've talked about CRMs many times. Obviously you live by them, which I would guess attributes to your success. Is there a CRM you like best, or what kind of CRMs did you look for to make sure it works?
So I don't like any of them right now. I'm transitioning to a new one that I think will work, because all the real estate specific CRMs like Real Geeks or Follow Up Boss, Lion Desk, all that, they're made for being in one market. And I just don't have that. And then even if there are features that will separate by market or by zip code. Sometimes I have one client that's looking in 3 markets, so they need to be able to be assigned to 3 agents based on what search they're attached to. So I'm looking right now at a non-real estate specific CRM called HubSpot that I think is going to do what I need it to do. But the best one that I found that was real estate specific is definitely Follow a Boss.
Follow a Boss. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Follow Up Bosses. I've heard a lot about that one, especially for engaging with online leads and engaging quickly and following up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to keep you on for 3 hours now because I want to go down like 20 rabbit holes.
Okay.
But I mean, what a great picture of your business. Come into business, just investing in real estate, finding a good deal in 2013. Then you really learn how to do short-term rentals. You kind of fell into it. 2016, you own 5. You're just helping your friends out. You're just being a go-giver, your book that you love so much. And then you're doing 56 million by yourself. And now you talk about how it took you a long time. I mean, in 40 years, you're at 150 million, basically. So basically 50 million to 150 million in a year. And now you've expanded into 3 markets. You're doing things most agents talk about doing. You did it. You're doing it. It's amazing. That being said, what do you find has been your biggest resource in building up that success?
Being an expert in the type of real estate that I'm trying to do. So my expertise comes from the reason that I work with investors is because that's what I know and that's what I'm good at outside of my real estate sales business. I am not good at selling primary homes to people because I can't deal with I don't like the paint color. I like to just say, this is how much it costs. This is what we can probably get it for. This is what it's going to make. That's what I'm good at. So that was really hard for me to just kind of hone in on that. And so if you stick to what you're an expert at, whatever that is, and apply it to your real estate business, then you're going to be better off than just trying to get, chase commissions and just get whatever you can. So if you stick to one thing is what I'm trying to say.
Awesome. Great advice. So well said. By the way, this is the final 3 of the interview. That was the first of the final 3 questions. The next question is, if there is one book that you're like, it's changed my life, my career, or both, what is that book that you couldn't have been who you are without, or we have to just read because it makes a difference?
There's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman that is about building a business and about delegating and building systems so that your business can run itself. And I read that probably 2 years ago. I probably need to read it again. It's about time, but that's a great one.
Okay. So that book, Traction, everybody, it doesn't get mentioned on our show often, but the 2 times, and this is the second one, it's probably been mentioned more. So everybody who's listening and has been on the show, the 2 times I can think of right now, because it's not very often, it has been mentioned, they have been by an agent who runs a team like a machine, like truly, which is rare in our business. That is the book. I read that book. And since I read that book and did the interview before yours, I have transformed from agent to actually having a legitimate team. So everybody read Traction. Last question. If there's one thing we should remember from the advice and the insight in the interview today, and we don't remember anything else, what is it?
I would say invest in real estate.
I love this girl. Yes. Whether you're an agent, you're an agent, you're a client, whatever.
Especially if you're an agent.
Yeah, there you go. So as far as growing up to be like you, and that doesn't mean being a short-term agent, or if it is, but being a successful real estate agent running a team, what do we need to remember? What do we need to know?
Get organized early is my best piece of advice.
Great advice. Avery, this was an awesome interview. Thank you so much for all of the really just tangible advice that we can all take home and grow our businesses and be more of who we want to be.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf podcast.com.